southern St. Johns County, but the worst of the weather farther off to the west. So I'm not sure, Lee, if you've been able to see any kind of signature as we go to the velocity. So certainly here is the wind shift, and maybe we're seeing some signs of circulation in this general area here. And again, that's racing off to the east and northeast at 55 miles per hour. So the good news is we don't actually have a human eyeballing a tornado. Doesn't mean it's not there, but radar can indicate circulation without it necessarily meaning there's catastrophic wind damage. That's where the science is, especially under this type of situation. But it is at very least an indication of probably the strongest portion of that long line, that squall line that we've been following now for, well, since this morning when it entered the Florida Panhandle about 6 to 6:30 this morning. So that's another way to look at it. So at about 6 this morning, this squall line entered the western Florida Panhandle, moved out of LA there of lower Alabama, and now is already 9 hours later, 8 hours later, moving offshore. So this will continue to move. There you see the march of the lake. Why don't we keep that up for a second, Lee, because that might be painting what I've been talking about. Is that there were indications from the computer models that a solid focused area of energy would begin to split up into possibly two different lines. And notice the solid nature of this, and although certainly still a powerful squall line with lightning, notice it starts becoming a little more diverse, almost a second line trying to develop a little farther off to the east. And all that means is they're still powerful, but maybe not all of the energy is packed into one particular area. That helps a little bit as far as not quite as much focused energy, means not as much of that wind that we know is up at 2,000 to 5,000 feet can get on down to the surface. Now notice also the rain behind it. So when I say conditions improving, I am not saying that it's going to be a beautiful evening at all. I'm just saying that if you have to be out and about on the roadways, that the worst of the weather will be coming to an end as this backside gets through you. So pretty much think now, if you're west of Highway 301, you've seen the worst that this weather has to offer. If you're in the coastal counties, you're receiving the worst of it now. Down around St. Augustine, you're just getting into the leading edge of that. And Flagler County, not quite into Flagler County as yet. But even into Duval now, the worst of the weather is now east of Highway 301. That is the heaviest of the rains, the lightning strikes, and the potential wind gust of 60 miles per hour or more. So that's a look at the radar. So here's the, I think it paints pretty well. The heaviest of the rain, so the lowest visibilities, some of the higher wind gusts, working into Fernandina, right over the airport, just about over downtown, through Orange Park, into Green Cove Springs, into Mandarin, past Middleburg, past Keystone Heights, through Interlochen, going to be into Palatka within about 10 minutes or so. There's the tornado warning and the warnings, but the only warning for our area is what we call Putnam County, and that's on the southern extent of this line of thunderstorms that's racing off to the east. And again, if we can use the term good, the good news is, even looking at regular radar, at least we don't see any classic signatures of a tornado. That would at least tell us that if there's a tornado within this rain, it's more like an EF0 or EF1. So what does that mean? Can still cause damage, but at least we're probably talking about maybe wind gust in the 70 to 85 or 90 per hour range versus, maybe here's another way to put it, unless something suddenly dramatic happens, we're probably not looking at, even if we have a tornado, something that could pick up a mobile home. Damage, yes, but not actually pick up a mobile home, let alone buildings or completely destroyed buildings. I don't see that. We haven't seen that, at least not lately, and hopefully we'll continue to see the pattern. But again, still strong. So this demarcation of color, just think of it that as the wind shift, and that's where some of our strongest winds are, now extend into the Interlochen area, past Hawthorne. If there's any sign of a signature of rotation right about here, this squiggly line here, that's Marion County, southern Putnam County. And here's Palatka. Here's the Rodman Dam and the St. Johns River. And the tornado warning again goes until 4 p.m. for Putnam County. So it might be extended, but this particular tornado warning goes until 4 p.m. for Putnam County. So it does not include Palatka, but in Palatka, I'd still keep a close watch on this forecast, and certainly, hopefully, you hear the message, at least that I'm trying to share, and that is that the most dangerous place to be in this type of weather is in a moving vehicle. If for some reason you have to be in your moving vehicle right now, hopefully you're not going to be going over high bridges or not in an area of a thick tree canopy. And I just say that because if you're moving along in your vehicle and a tree limb comes down and you're moving at 50 or 60 miles per hour, you might not have much time to react. We read storm reports all the time around the country. And I don't know exactly, but the amount of people that are injured from debris or from debris falling on vehicles is by far the highest concentration of damage when you don't actually have an EF2 or EF3 or greater tornado that actually is tearing up neighborhoods. It tends to be those who are in vehicles who are racing along. It's just easier for the vehicles to hop on. Now this is interesting, Lee. Have we actually seen a drop in severe thunderstorm warnings?
Yes, that's why I pulled up this map
so
to try
we're
to make
going
it
to
a
watch
little bit
this
more visual.
Okay, so we're going to watch this closely, folks, but this might support the idea that the energy is beginning to become spread out. Instead of right along one area, two. Computer models are indicating that. Didn't want to get too optimistic about that, but notice at least at the present time, these storms are strong, but we no longer are under severe thunderstorm warnings for those of us in Duval and Clay County. So although strong storm headed towards St. Johns County, at least right now in St. Johns County or Nassau County, you're not under a severe thunderstorm warning. So this is an interesting split. Right around where our highest population centers are, we do not have severe thunderstorm warnings. They may come back, but it sure is better than seeing tornado warnings added to the scenario. Obviously still heavy rain and gusty winds, easily up to about 50 miles per hour. But at least the indications of wind damage, at least right now, aren't quite as strong as they have. As we're maybe seeing this squall line, we're seeing the energy on the front side and the back side and not in one particular location. Certainly a lot of lightning around what's happening with the squall line down over Putnam County, and we continue with the tornado warning there until 4 p.m. But again, all of this radar indicated. We don't actually have reports of a tornado down over Putnam or for Marion County for that matter.
We have a severe thunderstorm warning now in effect for Duval and Clay.
Okay, so that,
pull this back up.
Thanks, Lee. So Lee, go ahead and share a little bit since we have you up there on camera.
Oh, hello everyone. So we have a severe thunderstorm warning. This is for Nassau, St. John's, Putnam, Clay, Duval, and Camden until 4:15 p.m. So that severe thunderstorm, that line that we've been watching, it's moving east at 45 miles an hour. So Tim, if you want to jump back on, I'll put a track on that right now.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, Lee. We just wanted to put a face on who's doing a lot of the work. We call it driving the radar. So if you listened to me over the last 5 to 10 minutes, hopefully you heard that I didn't want to get too optimistic. So in fact, we just got an update on the severe thunderstorm warnings. St. Johns County, notice the severe thunderstorm warning does include now St. Augustine, and then farther down to the south includes Hastings. Does not quite include Flagler County, but we feel like it's imminent. The severe thunderstorm warning will include those areas as well. The storms and the wind potential maybe has decreased a little bit. Instead of what appeared to be apparent peak gust of 70 or 75, maybe we can drop that down to 60 or 65. That's a little bit of good news, relatively speaking. And again, the strongest winds right along this demarcation of color on the Doppler. I think that might be the easiest way for you to analyze it. And it is now crossing. So this wind gust has crossed the river from Orange Park into Mandarin and is at Green Cove Springs. So this would absolutely be the worst 5 to 10 minutes to be crossing the bridge there at Green Cove Springs, the Shands Bridge. It's not a high bridge, but you're wide open and exposed on the Shands Bridge. So this would truly, even if you have to go over the Shands Bridge, if you could just wait about 15 minutes, because the wind shift and some of the strongest potential winds are going to be going over the Shands Bridge right now. The strong, maybe it can come up a little farther north, Lee, and we'll get into Duval County. So the strongest wind shift into Duval County now is pretty much along and east of I-95. So let's say west of Highway 17 now, the intensity of the rain and the dramatic wind shifts should begin to slowly decrease. So at least the trend there is improving. But in Duval County, right along I-95, and then east of there, it's either the windiest and the stormiest it's going to be, or will be within about the next 15 to 20 minutes for those of you east of I-95. Now, the Danes Point Bridge is right here, and there is how it looks. Kind of a tough view, but notice the visibility is not well. There are vehicles on the bridge. I think the biggest, for instance, if I had a family member driving over the Danes Point Bridge right now, my biggest concern would be if they were near a high-profile vehicle, like an 18-wheeler, but maybe even some of the traveling buses. Those high-profile vehicles that, as the winds now, instead of coming, the Danes Point Bridge pretty much goes south to north. So as those winds start to blow from the, we'll paint it here. So the Danes, maybe we can zoom in if we can, Lee, to the Danes Point Bridge. And she's going to do that. So, yeah, right in here. So the winds have coming out of the south, but right about now or imminently on the Danes Point Bridge, instead of out of the south, so like if you're driving from north to south, you'd be driving into the wind. But within moments, it's going to shift, and instead of blowing out of the south, it's, so here's the Danes Point Bridge. It's going to blow out of the southwest. And it's that sudden shift that can be a real problem for high-profile vehicles, because then suddenly it's hitting them on that high-profile side, more of a vertical hit. And that would be an 18-wheeler. That would be some of the big RVs, some of the big traveling buses. Certainly would be concerned if you're driving something like that. But then when those go over, or the drivers of those vehicles lose control, then that's when vehicles around them get into trouble as well. So under this situation, that's just another reason where if I was advising family members, I would say, please, over the next 15 minutes, you don't want to be going over the Danes Point Bridge. That's not me saying it's closed, but this is going to be about the most dangerous time it's going to be to drive over the Danes Point Bridge that it has been in quite a while, or at least until the next storm system. Again, all of this is headed toward the east now.
We have a tornado warning for Clay and Duval and St. John's. I'm sorry to interrupt. We just got this in. Here it is.
Okay, go ahead, Lynn, and share the details.
Alrighty, so this is again a tornado warning that's in effect for northwestern St. John's, northeastern Clay County, and southeastern Duval County until 4:15 p.m. So this is a tornado warning until 4:15 p.m. It's just radar indicated rotation. So Tim, I'm going to pull up velocity right now.
Okay, great. Okay, folks. So in case you didn't hear that,
look at that.
So this is a new tornado warning, and I'm going to check it out as well. Moving to the northeast at 60 miles per hour. Again, a severe thunderstorm capable of, so radar indicated, near Switzerland and Fruit Cove. And Lee has found the signature right there. So again, these are the roadways. This is Duval County. So this is south of Mandarin. This is the signature. So we're going to follow this signature. This is the signature of the potential tornado. There you see Switzerland and Fruit Cove. And so right on the river, the eastern banks of the river. So think between Fruit Cove to Switzerland down the river town, you're having the worst this storm has to offer right now. But what that also means for those of you in northern St. Johns County, so north of the, I know I'm covering a lot of people, from the northern World Golf Village on up to about Durban, on over to at least areas of much of Mandarin. I mean, maybe not right on the area, right on the river, but much of Mandarin, through about 295 and 95. Don't get into a vehicle. Get the family right now away from windows, and going into a hallway might seem too dramatic. Why not? For the next 5 to 15 minutes, because this is moving at almost 60 miles per hour. So it's covering a mile a minute, which means this is going to be past I-95, east of I-95, by within the next 5 to 6 minutes. So there's another way to say that too. So although the tornadic signature is just now on the eastern shore banks of the St. Johns River down near Switzerland, it's going to be east of I-95 by 4 o'clock 4:01, so within about 5 minutes. And then in this general shaded area, notice the cone expands because of the iffiness of the signature. But let's say this signature maintains itself as far as a tornado, then into all the way to the coast as quick as 4:10 to about 4:15. So one way to look at it would be you don't have to stay hunkered down long, folks. On the other hand, even though those of you east of I-95 may be hearing about the tornado warning and the signature near Switzerland, this is going to be east of I-95 in 5 minutes. So this is racing along. So a tornado warning in effect for those of you over southeastern Duval. So what does southeastern Duval mean? Well, this line basically goes from Mayport on down to the Mandarin area. So that would include the Avenues Mall. That would include Bay Meadows and Deerwood. Let me slide up just a little bit, Lee. And that would include, so here's JTB. And so this includes at least the tornado warning. This includes the town center. And then also includes UNF. Now, it includes a camera shot that we call Anders. And that's where we have some equipment, and that's where a camera is, and you can't see much there because that camera is way up on the tower, but at least it supports the stormy weather that is on what we call the south side. If you're wondering where this is, if you know where Tinseltown is, the movie theater complex, this is about a mile to the northeast of Tinseltown. Or another way to think about it is this camera shot is about probably half a mile to the southeast of the intersection of Southside Boulevard and Beach Boulevard. Another way to say it would be the camera shot you're looking at is right about here. So it's looking at, and is this looking toward downtown? Yeah. So this is looking toward downtown. The stormiest weather is off to the south, but it's basically looking toward, so although the tornado warning is down here, this paints out a little bit of interesting meteorology. So these, at least signatures of our tornadoes seem to be forming now on the second line that we thought might be forming. But it's also at very least where the strongest wind shift, reduced visibility, some of the heaviest rains are located. And so we're just going to follow this as this goes through Duval County. So this, as we talked about, goes through Danes Point, goes down through, can we call it Tinseltown? We used to. And then extends on down to the signature of the tornado that is now working off to the east, I should say racing off to the east and northeast at about almost a mile a minute, pretty close to 60 miles per hour. So we're going to call the signature now right in this area. So we're talking about very near or just east of Fruit Cove. This is north of the World Golf Village. To put things in perspective, Baptist Health Complex is over here. Here's I-95. And if we can go a little further to north, I'm going to show 95 and 295. Yeah, so here's the Avenues Mall area. And we have E-Town is down here. And then if we go a little farther off to the southwest, yeah, we can show to the southwest. And there you see Nocatee. And so it's not a classic signature, but again, if we have a tornado on the ground causing damage, it's right in here. So Racetrack Road, not a place to be. Some of the newer neighborhoods over northern St. Johns County, now is the time to hunker down at home, stay away from windows, get into the hallway. And we continue with the tornado warning down over southern Putnam County. Lee, do you have some details to share?
Yep, this is a new tornado warning that has been issued. So this is going until 4:30 p.m. for Putnam County. Again, radar indicated rotation, so it's part of that same line as well, Tim, but it's just another thing to now watch. So Putnam now goes until 4:30 p.m.
Okay, thank you, Lee. I'm checking that out as well. So, so the storm capable of producing the storm near Fort McCoy and moving along to the east and northeast at about 50 miles per hour. Maybe some good news for you folks in Palatka is that it does look like the signature farther off to the south, and maybe the worst of the weather will stay south of you. I say that simply because there's a lot of people in the Palatka area versus Point South. But still, we're going to watch closely for those of you, Willaca on over to Crescent City, beautiful spots. And again, this cell is going to continue to racing along with that squall line, and so this will eventually get into far southern St. Johns County, down around Marineland, and it's going to get into the Palm Coast area as well of northern Flagler County. So for those of you in southern St. Johns and Flagler County that have been driest longest, don't feel left out. These storms are heading your way as well. You're just farther off to the southeast, and so it's going to take a little bit longer for that to get to. Again, all of these are radar indicated. They're what we call rain wrapped, and that just simply means we showed you the one camera shot from the south side that right about where there appears to be rotation developing, both here and in the storm in northern St. Johns County, that's where we have the lowest visibilities. And so it could be that folks can't see the rotation because of the low visibilities. It's another great reason to have the Doppler and to take these serious. So let's do some more analysis here, Lee. If we can go from Fernandina, we'll just work all the way south, maybe zoom in. Yeah, so for those of you in Camden and Glenn County, notice that this line here, we're going to say that's the worst of the weather, that is now offshore of Camden County. So all of those of you in southeastern Georgia now, Camden and Glenn County westward, still going to be rainy, still going to be gusty, but your severe, your damaging wind event is pretty much coming to an end. In Nassau County, west of I-95, your damaging wind event concern is over, but right on from Fernandina out to the island on Amelia and then on down to the ferry, it's the next 15 minutes that will be your stormiest weather, that will have the highest risk of bringing down some tree limbs, possibly or blowing some debris through windows. Okay, on to Duval County we go. Now notice, this is the Dames Point Bridge here. So this is the Danes Point. It'd be interesting to see what the Danes Point Bridge camera looks like, by the way. So here's the Danes Point Bridge, and there it is. So if you were with us just moments ago, the visibility was much lower on the Danes Point Bridge. I'm not saying you should go over the Danes Point Bridge now. It's still going to be gusty there, but at least it does look like the storm with the lowest part of the visibilities has moved through the Danes Point Bridge, and the traffic is still moving in both ways, both directions. Okay, let's go to the east now because that's where the storms are headed, right? So let's go to the beach, and I think we're going to take a shot of the beach. So here's the radar. It shows the worst of the weather now east of the Danes Point Bridge on down to about, should we call it the old Regency Mall? You know where I'm talking about. So Danes Point Bridge through the Fort Caroline area, and here we see the beach. So this is looking southwest. You just saw a lightning stroke, flash. That's off to the southwest. So there you see this is up pretty high out around the beaches where winds are still strong out of the south with some gusts to about 40 miles per hour. So again, at the beaches, looking out to the west, there's the worst of the weather, heavy rains. The tornado warning does include those of you out around the beaches. So although maybe not, and I'm just being technical here, I don't want to mislead you and say our technology is so great that we can say for sure there won't be a tornado there. But just for a reference point, the tornado warning maybe not quite including Mayport, but including all of the beaches. So Atlantic, Neptune, Jax Beach, on down through Ponte Vedra Beach, and then westward through just about to the, actually almost right about to the Sandalwood area. So I think actually Regency area not part of the tornado warning. So Regency area not part of the tornado warning, and the worst of the weather just about now has moved through Regency, moving through Sandalwood, up through Fort Caroline, and let's take it south a little bit, Lee. So here we see the beaches. So here is 202 is JTB, and here's 295, and here is the town center. So about the worst the storm has to offer for the town center is happening right now. Same thing with UNF, where I do believe that classes are closed. And now we're back to looking, remember that site we called Anders? And notice now at least we can see some stuff. So visibility has improved. And if we go to the radar, so here is, if you just pull out just a little bit, no, I can a little farther north. Yeah. So here, I just want to show you what you see at Anders and then where we are on radar. So here's the town center. The place that we call Anders is right up here. And notice how that's on the western side of these darker colors. So while they're rainy and gusty, visibility is beginning to improve on what we call the south side, although we can't quite see the bridges downtown yet. That'll be a nice sight when we can see that. All right, so through the town center, solidly into Deerwood and the Bay Meadows area, other portions of the south side, but now no longer the immediate south side. So from San Marco on over to the Regency area and points west to northwestward, the worst of the storm is over. So let's talk about that, ladies. Let's talk about sort of the urban core. So as you go from the Regency area, from, shall we call it Old Arlington, on down to the south side, on down to San Marco, San Jose, the worst of your weather is now off to your east and moving away. from San Marco northward, the tornado warning is to your southeast, and that threat will not be heading up towards you. So San Marco, over through south side estates, on up through Arlington, JU area, the tornado warning will not be headed your way. That's off to the east and southeast of you. The concern is off to the east and southeast of you. So for those of you on the north side, for those of you on the immediate west side, and then farther off to the west, still raining, still rumbling, still going to be gusty, but the damaging concern is over for you. Okay, we're going to go back to Jack's Beach. Here's a better vantage point, I believe, of some of the lower clouds. Where is this camera coming from? Is this actually from a person? This is still the Jack's Beach camera. Okay, so it's pointed west, and so that looks to me like let's see, can I point there? No, I can't. Okay. Anyhow, that raggedness in the clouds, it's probably the wind shift. That's probably where southerly winds will become southwesterly. We call that a convergent point. And really, as a forecaster, and this may sound counterintuitive, but see if this makes sense. So we know that at 2,000 to 5,000 feet, there are winds of 60 to 80 miles per hour. And I've mentioned during the afternoon, the iffy part of the forecast is where and when will those higher winds get down to the surface where, of course, us humans and trees and things that can cause damage, when does that happen? Well, and this is the part that sounds counterintuitive. Where you have lift, where you have convergence, where you have southerly winds meeting southwesterly winds, which we saw those ragged clouds, that's where you have lift. And this might be the counterintuitive part. But actually where you have lift is where also you have the highest chance of those higher winds being pulled down. It's kind of Mother Nature's way of keeping things in balance, if that makes sense at all. So that's, as a forecaster, that's another thing we're looking at. Certainly the Doppler, tremendous help. But if we're wondering where will, because sometimes when a tornado becomes on the ground, and this is what we call an EF2 or EF3, 4 or more, it is sort of its own animal at that point. But very often in this situation, as much as we may say it's one tornado warning or we're watching rotation, what's actually happening is there may be for brief moments within this area that rotation, we call it a vortice, that rotation or vortex, that rotation spins to the ground, maybe for, especially in this weather, maybe for a minute or two, lifts back up, and then another rotation develops where the convergence, where the winds are coming together in a stronger way in that vicinity. And so in many ways, under this situation, unless it's for sure a tornado on the ground, what we know is in this general area, there's all these vortices sort of rotating around. And what we're trying to constantly figure out is when one of those vortices within the larger complex make it to the ground. You know, when we use the term cell a lot. And very often that's what we mean. Within that cell, under this situation, there are little vortices, little, I think that's the best way to put it, maybe vortices within this overall rotation. And within this situation, truly, maybe for just a minute or two, these vortices may touch down, weaken, and then another one form. We even see that with hurricanes. It's one of the reasons why if you're watching a hurricane closely, it may look like it's wobbling. And very often it's not so much that it's wobbling, it's that within that eye, there are very typically 3 to 5 vortices. And one of those is always strengthening, one is weakening, and so it has a triangular almost look, but it's because the vortices that are wrapping around it are strengthening and then weakening. And that's probably what's happening with this system. That's a long-winded way of saying it's another reason why we look for those convergent areas. Okay, so this is 95 in St. Johns County. I can't tell what exit that is, but at the very least, remember folks, it is, we're still 90 minutes from sunset, and that is some heavy rain. Those are reduced visibilities, and I'm sure winds are gusting to over 40 miles per hour and potentially 60 to 70. So I think another reason why you don't want to be on the interstate with other folks going 60 or 70 miles per hour. Another point, and this is just physics, that when you're moving along at 60 to 70 miles per hour, it's that much easier for wind to get underneath your vehicle and lift it and those within it. Okay, so Lee is focusing on the wind shift, and the wind shift is right at about the beaches now. Remember we showed you those ragged clouds And in fact, there's a look at the beach, which higher visibility just a while ago. So that wind shift, that convergent zone, those ragged clouds have reached the beach. And that means those of you along the intercoastal and out toward the beaches, you are now, and for about the next 5 to 15 minutes, you're going to be receiving the strongest winds this squall line has to offer. Conservatively, gust to 50, and I will not be surprised at all. For instance, the pier has a pretty good data point. I wouldn't be surprised at all if the pier sees gusts of 55 to near 60 miles per hour. Actually spinning the camera. Are we doing that ourselves? Wow, technologies. Okay, so there we're spinning around the camera showing you that, yeah, pretty much looks the same all over the beaches. Visibilities are significantly reduced, so that wind shift has made it. And Lee, fantastic job, Lee. Lee is focused on the beaches.
And Tim, the tornado warning, they issued another one to extend it. So now for St. Johns and Duval counties, it goes until 4:30 p.m. And they've been as you mentioned, you know, all the mini spin-ups that could occur. They're watching one right now over Atlantic Beach, another one near Ponte Vedra Beach, but all along that line, just areas of tightening circulation off and on. So they reissued another warning. Again, this goes until 4:30 p.m. At 4:10, the tornado was located, or excuse me, the severe thunderstorm warning. The severe thunderstorm was over Palm Valley near Ponte Vedra Beach. It's moving east at 45 miles an hour. And again, little pockets of rotation too. So those of you all the way up into the Atlantic Beach, Neptune Beach area as well, you need to stay on guard all the way down towards Ponte Vedra Beach because we can get these quick spin-ups right along that line.
Okay, thank you, Lee, very much. And I do want to point out, and this is now more news, but I do think it gives you yet another reason to stay off the roads. So we just got this report in. So near Bayard, that the public has reported widespread damage just south of Bayard there due to that possible tornadic touchdown. So again, we know now that this potential tornado here has caused some wind damage. We know it's on the roadways, and I'm sure we will be sending people there to see how extensive that is. And that's yet another reason why the tornado warning was extended. So although maybe no one has eyeballed the tornado, we see the damage that it's causing. And so has moved, the tornado warning extends all the way to the beaches. And as Lee mentioned now, goes until 4:30, Lee?
4:30.
Goes till 4:30. Okay, so let's cover the wind shift. So the wind shift has now moved offshore, or is moving offshore right now, of Atlantic, Neptune, and Jax Beach. So, and this might be the potential spin-up that radar analyzers are watching. That is offshore. So again, still stormy at the beaches, but I think from Jacksonville Beach north, that would probably mean the tornadic concern is offshore and is moving away. But let's get really hyper-focused, Lee, and just follow this line all the way down to east of Bayard. Okay, so the gust front now. So this is Beach Boulevard. Here's Ponte Vedra. Here's the county line. So that gust front is right on the beach and extends right down to Ponte Vedra. I'm talking about Ponte Vedra Club. There's San Juan Drive, Ponte Vedra Club. And that could be the signature of another spin-up. And Lee's going to continue to take us on down south. So now we're on down to Sawgrass, Palm Valley. For those of you who've ever gone, so here's PGA Tour. So here's 17th hole is right about there. So the worst of the weather is right over that part of our world, from the beaches on down to the Players Club and then offshore. Now I think we're going to begin to see it, yeah, a little off to the southwest. So notice now, let's see, what road is this right here, Lee?
Palm Valley Road.
Yeah, Palm Valley Road. Just want to make sure. So notice we're going to go down along Palm Valley Road and then on into Nocatee. So if you could expand a little more and then off to the southwest, Lee. Great. And then maybe zoom in just a little bit. So basically this is the Nocatee Town Center, if we can call it that, as it continues to expand in the Nocatee area. The worst that this storm has to offer, and potentially tornado over you right now. So just stay hunkered down for another 10 minutes or so, and although the rain will continue, the tornadic concern and the wind damage concern in areas, let's say within 3 miles of the Nocatee town center, that's going to be offshore to the east of you and moving away. And then a lot of it will be down over the Guana area where not a lot of folks live, except for you folks, of course, that are right on A1A. Okay, Lee, if we can keep going a little farther off to the southwest.
Tornado warning canceled for Putnam and Duval.
Okay, well, there's some good news. So the gust front has headed offshore in Duval, and that's why the tornado warning has been dropped there. And at least right now, we're not seeing rotation along the gust front. But I do want to note that this gust front is now southeast of Nocatee and Durban into the World Golf Village. So for those of you in St. Johns County, great news that tornado warning has been dropped. But the worst of the storm with potential wind damage will be right along this gust front. So it now is past Nocatee into the World Golf Village. And I'm curious where it hits the St. Johns River on the southwest side of St. Johns County, Lee. So it extends down well south of Green Cove in Switzerland, and we'll be into the Hastings area. So basically think World Golf Village now, as far to the south as the Hastings area, within about 10 minutes or so. That's where, if you're going to have a wind gust of 60 to 70 miles per hour, this is when it's going to occur. And then if we could continue to work on down south, Lee. Now, admittedly, as we get farther from the Jacksonville radar site, these are no longer quite as accurate, but it's good to see. I do think the gust front now is past Palatka. And then, Lee, if we just one more big picture of where the severe thunderstorm warnings are, we're going to pull away to regular programming, folks, because for now the tornado warning has been dropped for our area. We do know for a fact that there's widespread damage, at least being reported, just south of Bayard. So that would not be a good place to drive even as weather conditions improve. Notice the severe thunderstorm warnings are now so severe, not just tornado warnings. These severe thunderstorm warnings are no longer in effect for Duval and Clay. So from Duval and Clay, north and west, still going to be rainy, still going to be gusty, but the severe thunderstorm warnings are over. But for those of you in St. Johns County, especially think World Golf Village. Yeah, here's the official report that we mentioned. So the public has reported widespread damage in the Bayard area. But severe thunderstorm warning continues in St. Johns County. Think from south of Nocatee, so moving away from Nocatee now, on down to the World Golf Village and Hastings, and now we'll be spreading over the rest of Flagler County for the next hour into the eastern half of Putnam County, but then conditions improving from the west. So that's how it looks for now. We'll keep you updated through the afternoon.
This has been a severe weather update from the First Coast News weather team. Download the First Coast News app for live weather updates anytime.
So passing near, but it looks like south of Crescent City. So in Crescent City, certainly play it safe. But I think within another 5 or 10 minutes, we're going to see that this signature has gone past you. So more concerned, really, I think as time goes on within the next 5 minutes, will be for those of you in Flagler County. So if there was going to be a 30-minute period in Flagler County where you weren't going to be on the roadway, family stays away from the windows, this is the time. Because the strongest portion of the severe thunderstorm will be coming through you during the next 30 minutes. It's going to take longest to get to the coast. But again, moving to the east-northeast at 55 to 60 miles per hour, that's about a mile a minute. So it's not going to take long to get toward the Bunnell area and then all the way toward the pier. Keep that in mind for those of you that maybe have travel plans that remember, especially if you're leaving the Jacksonville metropolitan area and you're heading to 95, as you go south, stormier. As you go north, improving. As you go west on I-10, conditions will be improving in a dramatic way. So this is again, the signature for the tornado. But another way to say this, for those of you joining us, for those of you that are north of Flagler and Putnam County, although stormy, the worst of the weather is over. And although we're getting some strong wind gusts and even still some lightning. So it's certainly, if you don't have to be out and about, an evening in which it's probably best to stay home. But if you do have to be out and about, at least conditions will be improving. Certainly the highest winds will still be over the bridges. We know for a fact that even now, at 2,000 to 5,000 feet, which is not really that high, to put things in perspective, for those of you that fly around the country, we fly at about 30,000 feet. So 2,000 to 5,000 feet is pretty close. Now, this is the most recent report, or shot really, of some of the wind damage in the Bayard area. That obviously a tree that's been splintered, and that pretty much can happen with winds of 60 miles per hour. There may have been some isolated gusts to 75. This was in the area in which there appeared to be a radar or radar indicated tornado. Now, I do want to emphasize this was at about 3:55 to 4 o'clock. So if you're in this area, the weather now, although obviously rainy, conditions have improved dramatically. So that's just verification for this report that we got from different areas of the public. And this was then translated to the National Weather Service, widespread areas of wind damage. Of course, we don't know just how severe that widespread damage is. Hopefully, we're just going to see trees. We haven't had reports of trees on homes yet, but something we'll keep a close watch on. The portion of the storm that produced that damage, that's what's down south now. That portion of the squall line has raced off to the east, but the southern portion of that squall line not moving quite as fast. In fact, the southern portion will begin to weaken as it gets south of I-4 and heads down toward South Florida. The worst part of the squall line will actually be racing northeastward. So here's another report that just came in also, 50 mile per hour wind gust. Near Lewis, not sure exactly where that is located, obviously St. Johns County.
St. Augustine?
In the near the St. Augustine area. Okay, so gust of 50. I'm actually pleased to see we're just seeing that. It's when you get from the 50 to the 60 to 65 that we actually start seeing more significant wind damage. I'm sorry, I was just given a signal, but I'm not sure quite what the signal meant. Okay, we're just doing some discussion, live discussion here, folks. So this is where we're most concerned. Tornado warning, well to the south of the Jacksonville metropolitan area. So for 90% of our population, 95%, this is great news because this will not come back north. This is all part of the squall line that will continue to move away from most of what we call the First Coast. But we care about you folks in Palm County as well. That is Palm Coast and Flagler County, Palm Coast, and then on over to Palatka. I'm not sure, Lee, if we can go back and try to find any kind of a signature there for the tornado warning. So, yeah, Lee is working the radar with us, and this is not a classic signature of a tornado. That's good news. That means more than likely, even if we have a tornado, winds are no more than about 75 miles per hour, but still that's enough to bring down limbs, cause some damage, not catastrophic. But I hesitate to say that because at least so far from what we can tell, although there's been widespread damage over North Florida today, the two injuries that I know of happened in the Panhandle today, not because, and that was early this morning, not because of a tornado, but because of straight line winds. So sometimes it's the number that matters more than whether or not it has rotation. Nonetheless, just think of this being at least the worst part of the storm that's currently going through Flagler County, which is why I think pretty shortly, although technically we can say that Putnam County is under a tornado warning, that
Putnam got canceled.
Okay, so Putnam County has just been canceled. So now we're simply talking about a tornado warning for Flagler County. Here's the signature, well southeast of Crescent City. I'm not sure if we can zoom in to show Bunnell at all, Lee. Yeah, there we go. So the signature, which is the tornado here, that may pass just south of Bunnell. But still, of course, anybody in the tornado warning should keep this serious. Certainly, hopefully, you won't get on the roadways, and hopefully keep the family away from windows and in the interior hallway. This would be the time to do it. But also keep this, it looks like the worst, or the signature, south of Bunnell. Okay, we're going to take a switch here.
Yeah, thank you, Tim.
Here comes Lee.
Get Tim a break with a water break before we also start our 5 o'clock newscast. But again, we are on right now because there is a tornado warning in Flagler County. So for a lot of you, the worst has cleared out, but we are on for Flagler now. Again, this is clearing Crescent City. You are now not completely in the clear when it comes to the rain, the lightning, the strong winds. However, we are seeing the possibility of this tornado, this spin out there that will continue to move off towards the northeast. So again, there's a look at the rain as of right now. And when we zoom in, you can see right here, that's where we see possible circulation. That's where if there is a tornado, it would be on the ground heading towards Bunnell and then eventually off towards the coast. So right there, that's marine land. You're right on the edge of this tornado warning. And then it does include Palm Coast. So this is where we're watching for that possible rotation, that possible tornado, and that will continue to move off towards the coast. Now I'm going to back up here. Let's get another big picture look. So again, it's a lot of rain out there. We still have lightning as well. It's not safe on the roads when it comes to the breezy conditions, the slick roads, and the lightning, but that severe weather, that is going to continue to push well out of our area. And behind it, Tim, luckily that severe weather risk is starting to clear out of areas, say Duval County, and all points to the north and the west. We still have that heavy rain, and we still have lightning out there too, and I'm going to pull up the lightning right now. But as for a tornado threat, that threat is coming to an end across the First Coast.
Yeah, really, and that is good news. After we show the lightning, Lee, if you will, we'll zoom in one more time for the storm system out over Flagler. Again, the tornado warning has been is now over. So even though you see the red there, we do know the tornado warning has ended for southern Putnam County. And for those of you in Flagler County, we're going to continue to watch this storm. We think this is more of a straight line wind event with heavy rain, which is serious, can cause damage. But for now, we're going to pull away from Flagler County, and then we will come back if, in fact, we're getting more news that this is a more significant event than at least is what is indicated on radar. So if we could show one more time, Lee, maybe the extent of the lightning motion throughout all of northeast Florida and southeastern Georgia. So again, as Lee mentioned, it's not like it's going to be a nice evening at all. But the damaging threat is out here, moving away, and gradually the rain and thunderstorms diminishing as we move from west to east. Much more to talk about. We're going to take a break, and then we'll be right back.
And we want to thank you for joining us for First Coast News at 5. I'm Anthony Austin alongside Heather Crawford. We want to get out to our team of reporters who are monitoring the conditions in your neighborhood tonight. We want to start with Atia Collins, who is on your side in Riverside, in that neighborhood there. What are you seeing right now, Atia?
Yeah, Anthony, I'm here at Memorial Park, and it's been on and off rain for the last hour. Right now, as you can see, rain is coming down. We do have some wind gusts going throughout the park, and that is causing some tree branches to fall. There is some debris on the ground behind me and sitting water throughout the park. Now, right now, it is way calmer than it was earlier today when I was here. A drastically different scene throughout our area. This is video from around 2 p.m. You can see swells from the St. Johns River crashing against the riverbank and bringing water into Memorial Park. Over at Riverside Park, high winds brought down tree branches and left debris on the ground. One huge tree limb hung precariously onto a tree near the park's playground. And across the river in San Marcos Riverfront Park, trees swayed in the wind, but there was no flooding of River Road this time around. The Public Works Department is responsible for clearing any downed trees that are in public roadways. So if you're driving around today and you see a downed tree, you can call 904-630-CITY for service. Reporting in Jacksonville, Atia Collins, First Coast News, on your side.
Atia, thank you. Our team coverage continues now in St. Johns County. That's where On Your Side Cheyenne Cole is live tonight. Let's go to St. Augustine to check in with her. Cheyenne, how's it looking there?
Well, Heather, we are here by the Bridge of Lions in downtown St. Augustine. I can tell you, I am feeling some water inside my rain boots and on the bottom of my pants. So if you are coming out, you definitely need to dress appropriately. Don't be like me. But yeah, we are seeing these boats on the water here. They've been moving around just a little bit, but not too much. It hasn't been a great day to be a tourist here in St. Augustine. The roads have been empty for the most part that we've seen. Not a whole lot of people walking around. However, I did see an old trolley tour out earlier this afternoon, and usually, you know, those are packed with people visiting this area. For the first time, I saw only 3 riders on the trolley, and as my photog said, they were very brave souls. We are seeing lightning, hearing thunder, and seeing the steady sprinkle of rain. That turned into a downpour about an hour ago. It's been kind of alternating between light and heavy. Now, St. Johns County schools released an hour early and government offices closed up at 1 o'clock today. They also rescheduled a school board meeting that was supposed to happen tonight. And even some shops and restaurants have closed their doors for the day. But for others, it is business as usual. I have seen a couple people walking around just in shorts and flip-flops. You know, the classic Florida storm weather look. Now, we are going to have an update for you guys here in about another 30 minutes or so. For now, reporting live in St. Augustine, Cheyenne Cole, First Coast News, on your side.
Cheyenne, thank you. We want to take you now to St. Mary's, Georgia. Zach Wilcox is there and continues now our team coverage. Zach, what is it looking like there right now?
Well, Heather, when we talk about storms and storm coverage, we talk about old trees an awful lot. So I figured I'd come out to St. Mary's to keep an eye on some of the oldest trees in our area, something that's synonymous with St. Mary's, and that's the oak trees that line Osborne Street. Figured I'd keep an eye on those. The lights actually just turned on the ones that kind of hang into the street a little bit to let drivers know that they're there. I talked with a business owner around here just to ask him, you know, are you worried about these trees when the winds pick up like this? And he said, hey, they've made it through hundreds of years worth of storms, so what's going to stop him in this one? But he is worried, however, about his pecan tree. He's got a 100-year-old pecan tree on his property right by the outdoor patio area of Seagulls where you can sit and enjoy some drinks and food. He said they used to have 3 pecan trees. One went down quite a few years ago. Another one in 2020 they had to cut down, so they were really hoping that they can hang on to this last tree because it's really something that he enjoys looking out at and being able to have his customers look out at, kind of a part of the history that makes up so much of St. Mary's.
I worry a little bit because sometimes they've got some older branches that may get a little wind damage, so that's always a concern. It's part of our coastal history and our heritage, and so it's a way that we connect with the explorers of the past and the citizens of today.
So we've been keeping an eye on that old pecan tree, and it looks like it's hanging steady through all of this right now. And I tell you what's not hanging steady, some of these traffic cones. Boy, every single one. We watched them one by one drop down here on Osborne Street where they're doing some work in the median. But hey, if all it is a couple of traffic cones, we'd much rather have that pecan tree and those oak trees staying steady through this storm. In St. Mary's, Zach Wilcox, First Coast News, on your side.
Zach, thank you. And we want to check in now on power outages across the area. This is a look at the JEA coverage map. We understand that there are several areas with outages right now. JEA crews are on the way. We also checked with Florida Power and Light, FPL. No significant outages at this hour, as far as we know, for those customers.
And we want to see how the severe storms have impacted where you are. So if you're in a safe place and you can take a picture or video of any damage you see, please send it to us. You can do that by using the Near Me function on the First Coast News app.
All right, let's take a live look outside now, if we can. This is I-95 and Racetrack Road in St. Johns County. We understand that there were some power outages reported in the area of Racetrack Road. They have since been resolved. Chief Meteorologist Tim Deegan is joining us now.
So Tim, has the worst moved out of our area right now?
Yeah, and so I want to emphasize that, as you can see, we still have wet roads out there, still gusty winds, there's still some lightning, but the threat of wind